In this video, you're going to learn how to simplify radicals involving numbers as well as variables and numbers and variables together. We're going to be working with square roots and cube roots, and we're also going to be talking about when to use that absolute value bars or the absolute value signs in these problems. So we're going to go through 14 examples. Let's start with some simple ones and we'll get more challenging as we go through. Let's dive into this video. The first thing we want to kind of talk about is some basic terminology, understanding the notation. And when you see this kind of interesting looking symbol here, we call this usually like a radical symbol. Sometimes it's called a square root symbol if it's a square root, or a cube root symbol if it's a cube root. But when you see that symbol, that's what's referred to as a radical. The quantity underneath is referred to as the radicand. And then this number here that's in this little nook, you can think of this as the root or the index. And that tells you whether it's a square root, a cube root, a fourth root, etc. Another thing that's good when you're working with these problems is to know your perfect squares and your perfect cubes, etc. But I'm going to show you some other ways to approach these problems. So when you take the square root of a number, like for example the square root of 25, what this is really saying is what number times itself is 25. Now in this case we can see that 5 times 5 is 25, so the answer is just going to be 5. When you take this square root or the even root, it's going to yield a positive number. This is referred to as like the principal root, and so it's always going to give you a positive answer. So here you could say that negative 5 times negative 5 is 25, but we're just going to give the positive answer when you're taking an even root. Now for number 2, you can see we're taking the cube root of negative 27. This is saying what number times itself 3 times is negative 27. Well, that's going to be negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. So what you'll notice is that when you take the odd root of a negative number, you're going to get a negative. If you try to take the even root, like the square root of a negative number, you're going to get what we call imaginary numbers. But in this video, we're just going to be working with a set of real numbers, okay, not imaginary or complex numbers. So you really can't take the even root of a negative number, just the odd root of a negative number, and that's going to yield a negative answer. Now for number 3, the square root of 28. This one's not so simple because what number times itself is 28? Well, 5 times 5 is 25, that's close. 6 times 6 is 36, that's too much. So in this case, what we do is we try to think about, are there perfect squares that go into 28? Now, when there's not an index here, this is understood to be a 2, okay? Otherwise, they'll write whether it's 3 for cube root or 4 for fourth root. So in this case, if I kind of look over here, I can say, it looks like 4 is a perfect square. I could write this as the square root of 4 times the square root of 7. The square root of 4 is 2, and I can't pull out a perfect square out of 7 because there's really just 7 times 1. There's not a perfect square in there. So this would be written as 2 square root of 7. Now there's another way to do this problem, and I'll show you that on number 4. If you take the square root of, let's say, 192, and it's a larger number like that, what some students like to do is they like to do what's called a prime factorization tree. You break it down into the prime numbers. So what I could do is I could say this is 2 times 96, and 96 is 2 times 48, and 48 is 2 times 24, and 24 is 6 times 4, and you just keep going down until you get all the prime numbers that it multiplies to. So now when you take the square root, you look for 2 of the same number. Okay, not the number 2 necessarily, but 2 of the same number. So there's 2 2s, there's a pair, there's a pair. So for each group, you get 1 of that quantity, because this is like 2 squared. The square root of 2 squared is just 2. Same thing here. This is like 4. What's the square root of 4? 2. 4, square root of 4 is 2. So we get 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8, with a 3 left over. So this is written as 8 times the square root of 3. Now, if I had a 3 and a 5 left over, I would multiply those together and say, oh, that's the square root of 15. Okay. Now, you can check your work. You could say 8 squared, that's 8 times 8 is 64, times 3 gives me back the 192. So I can check to see if I'm on the right track. But this is a handy method when it's a large number and you don't necessarily know what perfect squares you can divide out. Now for number 5, we're dealing with the cube root of 108. We're looking for groups of 3 of the same number or perfect cubes. So I could either see, like, does 8 go in here evenly, or 27 or 64 or like that, perfect cubes. Or if I don't want to do that, I can just think about, what goes into 108? Well, this would be like 9 times 12 is 108. and 9 is 3 times 3, and 12 is 3 times 4, and 4 is 2 times 2. But I'm taking the cube root, so I'm looking for 3 of the same number, not necessarily the number 3, but 3 of the same quantity, because this is really like 3 times 3 times 3, or 3 cubed. The cube root of 3 cubed, the cube and the cube root are inverses, they undo each other, just giving you 3. So this 3 will come out in front of the radical, and we're left with 2 times 2, which is 4. So this is 3 cube root of 4. Let me erase the whiteboard. Let's do some more examples. Okay, let's take a look at some more examples. If you want, go ahead and pause the video and try some of these on your own, and we'll go through them together. It's a good way to kind of practice and see where you're at with your understanding. Now, for number 6, we've got the square root of 750. And I know it's a square root because there's not an index up here, so that's understood to be like a 2. We're looking for groups of 2 of the same number, or a number times itself, like, twice. And so a square root of 750, that's a big number. Let's go ahead and do a factor tree. Let's do 75 times 10, that's 750. And 75 is 25 times 3, 10 is 2 times 5, and 25 is 5 times 5. Now, working with the ends of these branches here, the very ends, those all multiply to 750. But when I take the square root, I'm looking for 2 of the same number. So here I've got 2 5s, that's like 5 squared. The square root of 5 squared is just 5. And that's about it. So whatever's left here, I have to multiply together. So this is going to be 3 times 2 is 6, times 5 is 30. This is 5 times the square root of 30. Now again, if you want to check your work, 5 squared is 25, times 30 gives you back the 750. Now for number 7, we're dealing with a cube root, so we need to pull out perfect cubes, or we can look for 3 of the same number when we do our prime factorization tree. When we take the cube root of a negative number, we're going to get a negative, okay, because 3 negatives multiplied together give us a negative. So when we look at this, let's break this down. It's even, we could divide it by 2. So this could be written as 216 times 2. I'm just going to ignore the negative for a moment. And then 216, I know that this is 36 times 6, okay, and 36 is 6 times 6. Now I didn't go all the way down to the prime numbers here. You can, but I noticed right away that I've got 3 6s here. So I'm just going to circle those. That's a group of 3. That's going to come out in front, because think of this as the cube root of 6 cubed. The cube and the cube root are inverses. That just gives us 6. And again, we said the cube root of a negative is going to be a negative, and we're left with the cube root of 2. Now, if you want to check your work on this one, a negative 6 cubed is negative 216 times 2 gives us back the negative 432. Okay, now number 8, we've got some variables. So here's where it gets a little bit more interesting. The square root of 16 we know is 4, because 4 times 4 is 16, and we give that positive, or that principal, square root. The square root of x to the 4th, what times itself, like what twice, 2 of the same quantity give us x to the 4th? Well, that's going to be x squared times x squared. So this is x squared, and what times itself is y to the 8th. Well, that would be y to the 4th times y to the 4th. Now, because remember, when you multiply, you add the exponents. 4 plus 4 is 8. What I like to do as a little bit of a shortcut is I say if this is a square root, that means this is understood to be a 2. How many times does 2 go into 4? Twice. How many times does 2 go into 8? 4 times. See? So that's a kind of a little quick way to do it. Now, in this case, this is our final answer. Now, sometimes when you're working with these problems, we have to include absolute value bars, okay, to ensure that the final answer is positive, because we don't necessarily know what x and y represent numerically. So what I want to illustrate here in example number 9 is when do we use these absolute value bars? Now, if you want to make a little note to yourself, which I recommend here, is if you take the even root, okay, so if this index is even, okay, and of a quantity underneath that's raised to an even power, and your final result ends up in an odd exponent, okay, or an odd power, then you're going to have to put the absolute value bars. So in this case, you can see this is understood to be a square root, or an index of 2. The square root of x squared is going to give me x to the 1st. See how it comes out to an odd power, an odd exponent? I'm going to have to use the absolute value bars here to ensure that my answer is positive. Okay, that's that principal square root. Now you might be saying, Mario, I'm a little bit confused. What does this even mean, right? And I have to be honest with you, when I first learned this, my teachers always just said, well, assume that all the variables are positive so you don't have to worry about putting these absolute value bars, okay? But when they did that, and then later on I had to learn this, I was like, well, where are these absolute value bars coming from? And so I'm going to try to explain it to you right now a little bit more detail. So imagine if x was -3. Okay, let's just pretend here. So that means this is -3 squared, and we're taking the square root. Now, you might say to yourself, well, Mario, the square root and the square, those are inverses, so shouldn't the answer be -3? You know, because these are undoing each other. So, you know, this square root and the square opposites, it should be -3, right? But if you think about working from the inside out, you can say, well, -3 squared is 9, and then the square root of 9, that's just going to be equal to 3, right? But here's the thing, like if I just had like, let's see in this case, see if x is -3, and if I just wrote over here my answer is x like this, then that means that the answer would be -3, but then it's yielding, you know, a negative answer, not a positive answer. So that's why when you take the even root of an even power and you get an odd power, you have to use the absolute value bars. So make a note about that. I'll say it one more time. So if you're writing this down, when you take the even root, like a 2, 4, 6, 8 is your index, of an even exponent or even power, but you get an odd power or an odd exponent, you have to use the absolute value bars. So for this one, see how I'm taking the even root of an odd power? I don't have to use absolute value bars. I could just say this is equal to x times the square root of x, because, you know, x cubed is like 3 x's. Here's a group of 2, square root of x squared is x with 1 x left over. Now you might be saying, Mario, how come I'm not putting the absolute value bars here? Well, see, if x was a -3, right, this would be -3 cubed, which is -27. I can't take the square root of a -27 because that would give us imaginary numbers. So if I'm, you know, simplifying this, I know that in order to simplify it, I have to make the assumption that x is positive. Otherwise, it wouldn't even be able to simplify this because you can't take the even root of a negative number. So I hope that clears that up. We're going to do more examples involving absolute value bars as we go through these next few examples. So let's go to those next. Okay, so let's simplify number 10 now. We've got the square root of 12x cubed y to the 4th z to the 6th. Now 12 we know is 4 times 3, and 4 is 2 times 2 times 3. So that multiplies to 12. We're looking for the square roots. We're looking for groups of 2. So this 2 is going to come out in front with the 3 left underneath, right? X cubed, the square root of x cubed, that's like 2 goes into 3 once with 1 left over. 2 goes into 4 twice with none left over. And 2 goes into 6 3 times with none left over. Now we want to pay attention because we're taking the even root. And remember, when we take the even root of an even exponent and we get an odd exponent, we have to put the absolute value bars, right? So if I take the even root of z to the 6th, that gives me an odd exponent, z cubed. I have to put absolute value bars around the z cubed. Now the y squared I didn't, because when you square something, it's always going to be positive. So we don't have to worry about if y was negative here, because when you square it, again, it's going to be positive. Over here, we don't have to have absolute value bars around this x, because see how this was an odd power? So if x was negative, a negative to an odd power would be negative, and we can't take the square root of a negative. So the only way we can simplify this is that if we make the assumption that x was originally a positive. So even though we have x to the first, we made the assumption x was positive, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to take the even root of a negative number. So you just have to watch out. If you're taking the even root of an even power and you get an odd power, put that in the absolute value bars to ensure that the final answer is the principal root or the positive root. So this is as far as you can go on that one. Now for number 11, another even root, the 4th root this time. So we're looking for groups of 4. 32 I know is 2 to the 5th power. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, 5 times, right? So I say 4 goes into 5 once with 1 left over. So that's going to stay underneath this 4th root here. 4 goes into 4 once. That a is going to come out. But notice we're taking the even root of an even power and we're getting an odd power. So that's going to have to go in the absolute value bars. Let's just do that. 4 goes into 12 3 times. Again, notice we're getting an odd power. So we're taking the even root of an even exponent, getting an odd exponent. So we have to put that in the absolute value bars. Here we're taking the even root of an odd, So we don't have to worry about that being an absolute value. So 4 goes into 7 3 times. I'm sorry, 4 goes into 7 once with 3 left over. So if we kind of clean this up a little bit, it would be 2 absolute value of AB cubed times C, and we've got the 4th root of 2C cubed left over. That's as far as we can go on that one. Now for number 12, we don't have to worry about the absolute value bars because we're taking the odd root. Okay, you can take the odd root of a negative number, you can take the odd root of a positive number, so you don't have to worry about the absolute value bars here. 16 I know is 2 to the 4th. 3 goes into 4 once with 1 left over, so that's going to stay 1 underneath here. You can think of this as 8 times 2. The cube root of 8 is 2, and then you have a 2 left over. 3 goes into 3 once. That's going to just be m. 3 goes into 5 once with 2 left over. 3 goes into 10 3 times with 1 left over. Now you might be saying, Mario, why are you doing that? Well, see, m cubed, m times m times m. See, that's a group of 3, I just get 1. Or you could think of this as m cubed, the cube root of m cubed, those are inverses, you just get m. But with p to the 10th, imagine having 10 p's, that's like 3, 3, 3. It's like the cube root of p cubed is p, and then the cube root of another p cubed is p, and another cube root of p cubed is p, and then you have a cube root of p left over. That's this one, but this is p times p times p, which is p cubed. That's a lot to write, so I just say, well, how many times does 3 go into 10? 3 times with 1 left over. It's kind of a little bit of a shortcut way of doing it. Let's look at the last 2 examples. Okay, I think you're getting a good sense for these radicals now. See if you can do these last 2 on your own, and we'll go through them together. And while you're doing that, I just want to let you know about 2 of my video courses that I have for sale. I've got an Algebra 1 and an Algebra 2/College Algebra course for sale. So if you want to go deeper with either of those subject areas, check out those courses. They're packed with 85 lessons in one and 87 lessons in the other. And I take you through understanding the concepts, practicing problems, and then additional problems you can practice on your own that we then also go through together. So a lot of information in those courses if you want to take your learning to the next level with me. Also, if you want access to more videos, you like my videos, obviously, because you've stuck around to this late stage of this video here, you can become a member by joining the channel as a channel member. You can either join as a supporter, where you just want to support the work that I'm doing here on YouTube, or you can join as an additional videos level member. And if you join at that additional videos level, you'll get access to over 120 videos that I have on there so far, with more being added. And they contain my geometry course, entire geometry course, my ACT and SAT course, midterm and final exam reviews, and more videos. So check that out if you want more content, you really like what you're learning here so far. Let's go through these last 2 examples and we'll wrap up this video. 5 squared root of 24. 24 I know is 4 times 6. Square root of 4 is 2 times this 5 gives us 10 square root of 6. That was kind of an easy one. Number 14, a little bit more challenging because we have variables and we're taking the cube root. So the 250, I could look for perfect cubes to divide out, or I could just break it down into prime numbers. I kind of like this factor tree method. A lot of students like it as well. And then you can look for groups of 3. So there's a group of 3, so that 5 comes out, times this 10 would make this 50. We've got a 2 left underneath. Okay, that's this 2 here. We don't have enough to make a group of 3 with the x's, so that stays underneath. We do have enough to make a group of 3 of the y's, so there's going to be one group of 3 with 2 left over, that stays underneath. We don't need any absolute value bars because we're not taking the even root, we're taking the odd root. And I should have put this a little bit closer to this radical, but that's going to be your final result. So great job if you're able to follow these examples. If you want more practice, I'll put another video learning about how to work with radicals right there. Follow me over to that video. See if you can practice some of those problems as well to really master these concepts. I'll see you over in that video.